My name is Lee Maxted-Page. You're at Maxted-Page Limited. We're a historic Porsche specialist based in the countryside, rurally in North Essex in the UK. Well, welcome to Maxted-Page, to our workshop. These are a collection of historic Porsches from different eras. We're very involved with Peter Auto and supporting the series that they do. So there's a 2-litre Cup car here, which we were one of the founders of, and we built a lot of race engines and gearboxes for clients competing in this series. So this is in post-Spa, now getting it ready for Dijon. My background is always in the motor business, and I spent 15 years with main dealers on sales roles in London, in the UK. And then in 2001, my wife and I bought this property rurally, and which had these big farm buildings, and it was always the dream to perhaps do something for myself. And then we put together a great team who have grown with us organically over the years, and specialised into what we've become. The series of cars up here are what we call Endurance Racing Legends cars. These are GT2 cars from the 95 to 2010 period, which Porsche built 3 models of, 993, 996, 997. And this is a really massively emerging series which we're very much part of and involved in as well. Personally, I'm racing this 997, but we're supporting clients racing similar cars and loving every minute. Racing's in our blood, and we like to do it for fun, so we just run 2 or 3 cars trackside, but we do provide service at the track, particularly for the 2-litre Cup series. So as an engine supplier, we help teams that are running our engines if they need help or advice or parts in the paddock. My workshop director and technical director, Adam Lichtig, came with me from my previous role when we were working actually in Rolls-Royce and Bentley. And he was an apprentice mechanic at the time. And he came with me from the very early years, and has grown incredibly in his understanding of Porsche engineering and what we do here today. Yeah, this is one of the old supercars, a 959 Comfort, which is in for routine service work really. Unusually, it's quite a high mileage 959. We've been going through it and giving it just some love and attention and making sure it performs for the road. We were always Porsche lovers and drove them as road cars, and it became apparent to us in the early years that unless we specialised, we wouldn't really ever get into the very special Porsches, the racing prototypes and what have you. This is a really important car. This is 936 chassis 001, which is one of 3 936s from the factory, the Martini Racing Porsche. Won Le Mans in 1977, but significantly it did Le Mans 5 times between 76 and 81. And every year it went back to Le Mans, it was developed and it evolved, starting off from a 2.1 air-cooled engine to ultimately a 2.65 litre water-cooled longtail. It was an incredible car. Our brief, just during lockdown actually, was could we restore it back to 77 specification? So we really engaged with it. It took a lot of time to research the history of the car vertically, so we understood all of its changes and why every year. We had access to the Porsche Museum archives, who hold chassis records on their own works cars, and we could see the notes from Norbert Singer and the team of what the changes were and why. And we did all the research and then ultimately approached a restoration like this very much like restoring a Rembrandt. It's about preservation, and it needs to be deeply respected rather than just rotisserie restored. So everything was about authenticity and correctness. Cars of this value these days perhaps only get rebuilt or restored one more time, and it's our responsibility to do it 100% accurately. We spend a lot of time with project planning and researching a car before we even begin, and that involves understanding the history of a car from all throughout its racing history or its life. And if you do your research really thoroughly, it makes the execution of the restoration that much more straightforward. This is another Endurance Racing Legends car. This is a 993 GT2 from '95, which has done Le Mans 3 or 4 times and now become a very famous livery, the Fat Turbo livery, which is currently being run on the Porsche 963 with Proton. So there's a lot of love for this livery, and this is one of the original cars that it was on and is still racing today. Very often the work that we're doing on a certain project gets recognised by somebody with a similar car, and they recognise the work and the skill that has gone into it, and they'll then approach us and discuss something similar. After we'd restored the Targa Florio winning Martini RSR, it brought on the next job to restore the 936 Le Mans winner. And then as we became more current in 917 parts, it brings in a 917 engine rebuild, which is our next job. So one sort of leads to the other, and I think when you do business well, you tend to get a lot of other work through referral. Well, this is our showroom, and we've got a mixture of cars that we've sold or are for sale, or perhaps just waiting for delivery in here. Here we've got 2016 911 RSR GTE car, which has just become obsolete now because in WEC it's all gone to GT3. They built about 50 of these cars between 2015, 16 and 2020, and they're obsolete at the moment, but they're tomorrow's classic. And there are a few already moving into collectors' hands, and I think it's really interesting to see as well. I mean, Porsche Motorsport deliver cars now like this in pure carbon, and they're wrapped because wrapping is lighter than painting them. But I think it's something of a work of art, and no doubt a collector will buy something like this and enjoy looking at it for a few years until it becomes relevant to race again. Yeah, 911R, it's, it was a fantastic concept when this came out in 2016. Effectively, Porsche built a lightweight GT car, but with a manual box and no wing. And, that's something that resounds with Porsche drivers, today still, they build the Touring, and people love a manual gearbox in a 911, and this is one of the ultimate, and will always be a collector's car. Yeah, another 997 RSR. We run 2 of the IMSA performance cars, which was a French team, and we bought them directly from the team. Yeah, this has just been purchased by a racer from Austria who will come out to the series and start racing it, which is wonderful. And so we will be running 2 IMSA performance cars and the Fat Turbo for the rest of the season. Another nice road car, the 996 GT3 RS. This is the Gen 2 GT3 RS, the first of the Preuninger cars. I think they're very undervalued, and in blue scripts it's a real fan favourite. This is a car we recently sold and waiting delivery. It's going to go to the Far East, in fact. And another Endurance Racing Legends car here, a 993 GT2. Famous UK team, G-Force, which had this Blue Coral sponsorship. This did a lot of BPR and FIA GT in the UK. This was purchased by a client last month, and again will come out racing again. This is quite a famous American livery. Champion Porsche, the largest volume dealer in the world, based in Miami, and this was a super famous livery that they ran with in '95 and then later put on their Audi R8 program. All the graphics are reflective as well, so at Daytona and night races, this car really pops photographically. This is a 4-cam Carrera Speedster, so 356s, most of them were delivered with simple pushrod engines, but this is one of a much smaller group of cars which were delivered with a 4-cam engine. So it makes it much rarer and more valuable. It's an incredibly complex engine. It's well known as being the sort of the Swiss watch, if you like, of engineering. This car's just been in for some routine service work, and you can see the lambda meters on it while we're just finishing off some road testing and fine-tuning. This is an extremely authentic and genuine car. This car was delivered new to Beirut, Lebanon, and it was rallied by a family out there. Then when the war broke out, it was sort of locked away safely as possible bricked up in a garage. With all the bombing that went on over the years, the garage crumbled all around it and caused all this damage over the car. But in about 2011, it was bought by a British collector and racer, and he brought it back, and he had a lot of foresight, and he saw this preservation class emerging. And although it's mechanically absolutely on point, he wanted not to restore all the bodywork, but instead just lacquered it and sort of preserved it and locked in its patina in time. So in a sense, in a world of uncertain histories with some of these cars, this is one you can be certain of because it's first paint and it's very much original patina, but it has a charm because of it. This is a Porsche 911 GT1. Evo from 96, 97. They didn't make very many of these cars at all. I mean, there were a handful of works cars and 9 customer cars. It's probably the ultimate 911 in so much as it was really more of a prototype, but the front section is a 993 chassis, and so it was homologated as a 911 for GT1. And this particular car started out racing with Marlboro livery on, and then later in its life it became the PlayStation car as well. It's had a change of livery subsequent to its active racing years, and depending on the age of the owner, whether he was more of a Marlboro man or perhaps PlayStation generation, the livery tends to get switched quite a bit. But we restored it back to Marlboro livery, and we were struggling a bit to find the correct shade of orange, because you know what you see on a Marlboro packet, which is very red, isn't necessarily what you see here or on a Penske Marlboro or a McLaren liveried Marlboro. And so we were guessing a bit, and then as we stripped all the rear bodywork off, the black from the PlayStation paint, we found this lovely big patch of orange, which we could then just match the RAL code and be absolutely 100% certain that we got the right shade. And the reason it's this type of day glow orange is because this works on television. It translates into the red of the Marlboro packet over the TV. So this is why they look a bit more fluorescent and lurid in real life. This car as well, we did a bit of work to. The owner wanted to road register the car. So although it was always a racing car, they did build nearly 25 cars to homologate this as a racing car. So effectively, it is a homologated car, and we did a few things just to get it through its MOT. We took it off the carbon brakes and had steel brakes made for it because they work more easily on the road. We fitted a handbrake and some auxiliary cooling, and then took it for an MOT and put a reg number on it. Yeah, that's another Carrera engine, 356A in ivory. It's a Californian car. It's a really lovely car actually, and it was in the States, 3 or 4 owners in California, and then a UK buyer bought it 15, 20 years ago and slowly restored it, and it's here for sale. And we've rebuilt the engine and gearbox. Mechanically, it's absolutely perfect, and it'd be a beautiful car for somebody to take on the Mille Miglia or something like that. There's a 356 Speedster here, which belongs to JK, and this has just had a service, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a Pre-A Speedster, which he wanted white wall tyres on, which makes it look quite cool and very much more American. And these cars were it was an American conceived sports car. They were basically conceived by Hoffman, who was the importer for Porsche in the States, and they were built for life in California in shorts and t-shirts. And believe me, you know, sometimes on that perfect summer's day, there's nothing better than a Speedster when you're in your shorts and t-shirts. It's not a particularly fast car, but it's a really light car, and the driving pleasure at even low speeds of 50 or 60 miles an hour is just all involving. They're lovely. This is an old Goodwood car. This is the ex-Dicky Stoop Porsche 904. So four-cammed car again. It's a UK supplied car by AFN, and during the 60s countries were quite patriotic about the colours that they raced in, and being British, this is Irish green, which was the closest equivalent to British racing green. And Dicky Stoop bought this car, who was an ex-Le Mans driver, but he bought this personally and raced it at Goodwood and all around the UK actually. We now maintain it for its present owner, and he's raced it a few times at Revival and members meeting, and last year was at Le Mans Classic. But they're great cars. They're effectively either a four-cam engine or a flat six twin plug engine, and it's a box frame, ladder chassis, fiberglass bonded, super lightweight. So it kind of does everything that an early 911 does, but better. It accelerates better. It stops better because it's lighter. It's a bit more powerful. The center of gravity is all right, and they're a really sweet car. And then, so that's a 1964 car, and the side profile is almost arguably copy and pasted by the Ferrari Dino. Well, this is a Group C Porsche 956, quite a famous livery, a car which came second overall at Le Mans in 1984. It was a successful outing for the car. It did Le Mans twice. It's here with us for sale, and next year, 2025, is going to be a big year for these cars. They'll go back to Le Mans Classic, and there'll be a massive grid. So we're hoping to find somebody that could be interested to have that experience in a wonderful 956. So this is our engine and gearbox room, which is an integral part of our business, and where we do a lot of the technical work. This is the 917 type gearbox, which we've taken from the 936, and ratios on the side there been selected and to shorten the ratio set for this for Festival of Speed. This is an incredibly rare gearbox in itself, and you know, anything with the part number 917 on it is valuable, and you know, perhaps £250,000 or so just for a gearbox. So it's lovely work, and it's very special. You can see in here as well the old scrutineering stamps from ACO, where the scrutineer at Le Mans has stamped the gearbox when it's raced at Le Mans at some point. So very special to work on these old things. None of it's really available off the shelf from Porsche anymore, but you know, around the world we've got contacts that have, you know, got old parts and so on, and old ratios, and which we can sometimes acquire. If need be, you know, we can always reverse engineer and you know, scan parts and have them remade. You know, it's always a question of cost, but you know, with valuable cars and components, you know, the cost is usually worth it. This is a 993 GT2 race engine from the Fat Turbo Express car. Again, just in for a service in the stand, which is routine, and just getting prepped again for its next outing at Spa in a couple of weeks' time. This here is a 2.2S engine from a road car, little orange Targa in the workshop. We're able to build these engines here and take them into our own dyno to run them in and tune them. And dyno sheet, this is originally a 180 horsepower engine, but we've managed to get 219 horsepower with 172 pounds-foot of torque. So together with some shorter ratios, customers should be very happy with this. We like to do things as the factory did them originally, but with motorsport engines, a lot of the parts are lifed. And the manual will say, you know, the engine's life for 25 or 30 hours, which was effectively Le Mans plus practice, after which certain components, if they're made of titanium or so on, they need to be changed. Otherwise they risk breaking. They were lifed for that period. So there's a lot more replacement necessary in race engines compared to road engines. This has been a full rebuild of a 996 RSR engine from 2001. And it's a great engine, and here on these wonderful megaphones which make it one of the best sounding 911s there is, certainly one of the loudest. And yeah, some really good flame shots at night from these type of megaphones. And then in stock here we keep always engines and gearboxes built up. For example, for the 2-litre Cup series, we always keep a 2-litre Cup engine fully built and ready to go for sale, as we do a gearbox. Yeah, there's a whole host of work in progress always in here. They're the ultimate endurance car. You know, they've been racing so successfully since the 50s, and you know, they are the perfect tool for the job if you want to be successful in racing. I love everything about the engineering of these cars and about how they were all conceived and came to be. And so, yeah, it's just a joy to be part of that journey with them and maintaining and preserving them.